Joey.
Hello? You're going to start already, huh?
No, I'm not starting.
How are you?
I'm almost through.
Good to see you.
How'd all these people get in your room? I know you're going to ask me a question.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Well, you go ahead, Bernie.
Did you get Frank something special for his 60th birthday? Did you give him a nice gift?
But how do you wrap up glands?
What if laughter had a heartbeat? And that heartbeat lived behind one desk, on one stage, every night for 30 years. Imagine a world where the biggest stars didn't just talk. They opened their souls. Tonight, we step back into that world, where Johnny Carson didn't just interview legends. He created them. From comedians who made America cry with laughter to icons who turned silence into gold. These were the moments that shaped television. The lights dim, and a soft golden hue washes over the iconic Tonight Show stage. The air feels thick with nostalgia, the kind that only a true legend could leave behind. The curtain parts, and there he is, Johnny Carson, the man who defined late-night television, the voice of American laughter, the host who made his guests shine brighter than any studio light ever could. When Johnny Carson sat behind that desk, it wasn't just television. It was magic unfolding every night. The laughter was real, the charm effortless, and his guests, they weren't just visitors. They were part of a living, breathing family that millions adored. Johnny Carson had an uncanny gift. He made everyone feel at home. No matter how famous or nervous someone was, Johnny knew how to make them relax, how to make them laugh, how to make the audience fall in love with them. Over the decades, many incredible people walked onto that stage, but a few became something more than guests. They became legends of the show, the heartbeat of a generation, the people who brought out the very best in Johnny Carson himself. Among those unforgettable names was David Brenner, the observational comic whose humor came straight from the streets, the subways, and the everyday struggles of ordinary people. Brenner wasn't flashy or scripted. He was honest, sharp, and unbelievably funny. Johnny adored him because he brought real life onto the stage. Whenever David Brenner appeared, the chemistry between them was electric. The jokes bounced back and forth like an old jazz rhythm. Carson would throw in a smirk, Brenner would hit back with a punchline, and the audience would roar. There was an unspoken respect there. Two craftsmen of comedy sharing the stage and making magic out of the simplest moments of life. And then there was Don Rickles, the undisputed king of insult comedy. His humor could sting, but his warmth always lingered just beneath the surface. When Rickles walked on, you never knew what was coming, and that was exactly the thrill of it. He would tease Johnny, poke fun at the audience, roast celebrities in the front row, and somehow everyone loved it. Johnny would laugh so hard he could barely speak, sometimes hiding behind his desk just to catch his breath. Their friendship was loud, playful, and utterly genuine. Don Rickles wasn't just a guest. He was family. The show felt alive when he was there, full of chaos, laughter, and love. Bob Hope was another of Johnny's most cherished guests, a true American institution who had been making people laugh long before The Tonight Show even existed. Hope represented old-school show business, tuxedos, timing, and timeless wit. When he appeared, Johnny treated him with pure reverence. The audience knew they were watching two giants of entertainment sharing one stage. Hope would tell stories about Hollywood, about the wars he'd performed through, about his travels and his friends. Johnny listened, smiled, and sometimes teased him just enough to remind everyone that even legends could laugh at themselves. Their bond was built on respect, one generation passing the torch to another under the warm glow of studio lights. Steve Martin brought something completely new. His humor was surreal, strange, and brilliant. He juggled absurdity like an art form, with his banjo, his white suit, and his wild imagination. Carson loved it. You could see it in his eyes every time Steve Martin showed up. That sparkle of genuine admiration for a comedian rewriting the rules. Steve would do the unexpected, from magic tricks gone wrong to songs that made no sense, but somehow made you laugh anyway. Johnny gave him space to be weird, and that freedom helped Steve Martin become one of the most iconic comedians in America. It was 2 generations of humor colliding, and every second was pure joy. And then came Robin Williams, a whirlwind of words, energy, and unfiltered genius. When Robin sat down with Johnny, it was like watching 2 worlds collide. One controlled and steady, the other wild and unpredictable. Robin would leap from one impression to another, transforming the set into his own personal playground. Carson would just sit back, laughing helplessly, occasionally throwing in a line just to see what Robin would do with it. You could tell Johnny loved every second of it. Robin Williams wasn't performing for the cameras. He was playing with the moment, with Johnny, with the audience, with life itself. Those episodes felt like lightning trapped in a bottle. Spontaneous, emotional, unforgettable. Frank Sinatra's appearances were different. Smoother, quieter, yet deeply powerful. The chairman of the board didn't need jokes to make an impression. His very presence changed the air in the room. When Sinatra sat with Carson, there was reverence. Johnny admired him openly, and the audience could feel it. They would talk about life, about fame, about friendship. Sometimes Sinatra would sing, and the room would fall silent. The laughter paused, the jokes rested, and The Tonight Show became a temple of music and memory. In those moments, Johnny Carson wasn't the comedian. He was the fan, humbled in the presence of greatness. Lucille Ball brought warmth, grace, and that legendary comedic timing that no one could ever replicate. Whenever Lucy appeared, the atmosphere lit up instantly. Carson and Lucy shared an old Hollywood bond, 2 masters who understood what it meant to make people laugh until they cried. She would tell stories from the golden days of television, about I Love Lucy, about her early struggles, about what fame really felt like when it wasn't always easy. Johnny treated her not just as a guest, but as a queen. Their exchanges were full of laughter, gentle teasing, and a deep affection that reminded everyone why she was America's favorite redhead. Muhammad Ali's visits were pure theater. The greatest boxer in the world didn't just talk, he performed. His confidence, his poetry, his playfulness turned every appearance into an event. Carson loved sparring with him verbally, trying to keep up with Ali's wit and charisma. The 2 men respected each other immensely. You could see it in their smiles, their eye contact, the way Johnny let Ali's larger-than-life personality fill the room. Ali wasn't just a sports figure, he was a cultural force. His presence on The Tonight Show reminded viewers that humor, strength, and grace... Carl Sagan brought an entirely different kind of wonder to Carson's stage. The world knew him as the scientist who made the cosmos feel intimate, and Johnny was fascinated by him. When Sagan spoke about stars, galaxies, and the origins of life, the studio would fall into an awed silence. Johnny asked questions not just as a host, but as a curious soul eager to understand the universe. Sagan's calm, poetic explanations made science feel magical, and Carson's genuine curiosity made those conversations timeless. Together, they proved that late-night television could be more than jokes. It could be a window into the infinite. Jonathan Winters was another of Johnny's favorite guests, a comedic chameleon whose imagination knew no bounds. He would slip into characters without warning, invent stories out of thin air, and turn the most ordinary question into a full-blown performance. Johnny adored him. Sometimes Carson would just lean back and let Jonathan go, laughing so hard he could barely keep the show moving. Winters brought out the childlike joy in Johnny, that sense of wonder and unpredictability that made their moments together unforgettable. Through all these years, Johnny Carson remained the steady heartbeat behind it all. He was never just the man asking questions. He was the bridge between humor and humanity. He had this rare gift of knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when to simply let silence say everything. His guests loved him because he made them better, made them shine, made them feel understood. Whether it was laughter, music, science, or heartfelt conversation, Johnny knew how to bring out the truth of a person. There were nights when the laughter shook the studio, and there were nights when the audience sat perfectly still, moved by something far deeper. That was the beauty of Johnny Carson. He knew that television wasn't about noise. It was about connection. His desk wasn't just furniture. It was a sacred space where people came to share their best selves. And the guests who sat across from him weren't just entertainers. They were storytellers, dreamers, icons, and friends. The magic of The Tonight Show during Carson's era wasn't built on glitz or ratings. It was built on sincerity. Johnny never tried to steal the spotlight. He handed it over, night after night, with grace and wit. And that's why his most loved guests weren't just funny or famous. They were real. They brought something human to the screen, something that made people at home feel less alone, more connected, more alive. As the years passed and the curtain finally fell on Johnny Carson's last show, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. His guests, his colleagues, his audience, they all knew something extraordinary was ending. But what remained was bigger than television. It was the legacy of laughter, warmth, and authenticity. Every rerun, every clip, every memory carries that same energy. The comfort of a man who made America laugh its worries away, and the guests who helped him do it. Tonight, as we look back, we remember more than just names. We remember moments. The sparkle in Johnny's eye when a punchline landed perfectly. The way he leaned back in his chair when laughter filled the room. The quiet nods he gave to guests he deeply admired. Those were the moments that defined not just The Tonight Show, but an entire era of entertainment. And as the stage fades to black and that familiar theme music plays one last time in our minds, we can almost hear Johnny's voice, calm and warm, saying goodnight to millions. His laughter still echoes, his charm still lingers, and the guests who shared his stage remain forever part of his story. Johnny Carson's Tonight Show wasn't just a talk show. It was a piece of American soul. And the guests he loved most will forever be the stars that keep that soul alive. Good night, Johnny. And may your laughter and theirs never fade.